Hello, everyone. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you to BlerDCon and Afropunk for providing this opportunity. It's it's amazing that I get to present this information to everyone, or I would say a large audience. So thank you again, BlerDCon and Afropunk. Greatly appreciate it. So my name is Javon Goard. I am a PhD student at Indiana University at Bloomington. Today, I'll be presenting on the topic of Black joy in digital gaming, a joyful rumble, Black joy in video game culture. I have three main objectives. The first being an introduction to the concept of Black joy, the roles of African Americans slash Blacks within the early gaming industry, and lastly, the current involvement of African Americans slash Blacks within the games industry, as well as some esports relationships. I argue that gaming culture, specifically related to video games, provides both online and offline spaces in which African American Black identified people have used and continue to express and perform actions of Black joy beyond just a form of resistance against a white dominant hegemonic force within American society. Now, most talks that I give are segmented via levels. So let's start with level one. What is Black joy? I want us all to personally reflect on this question. Have you heard of Black joy? If so, what does it mean to you? Blackness is a socio-political identity. Thus, the meaning of what Black is and the term used for folks of African ancestry has gone through many changes. Here's a picture of the 2010 census, which you can mark off your race as Black, African American, or Negro. Negro being the racial category that has since been dropped starting with the 2020 census. Blackness has been put out for mockery, vitriol, and death, especially under both the Obama and Trump administrations, in which Black death and anti Blackness are commonplace within a global viewership because of the ease of access online. The struggle for equality continues. Though the arguments and language people may use have changed over time, the focus is still the same: a fundamental dismantling of an oppressive white force that continues to blame Black folks for every misfortune within America, though America brought it upon itself. Unfortunately, not new at all, and frequently documented, are acts of police brutality. Shown here is an image of a protest outside the state capitol of Minneapolis for the police shooting of Philando Castile. Philando Castile was killed in his car in July of 2016 with his girlfriend in the passenger seat and the daughter in the back. Officer Geronimo Yanez was acquitted of all charges in June of 2017. On March 13th this year, 26-year-old emergency medical technician Breonna Taylor was shot and killed in her home in Louisville, Kentucky, by the Louisville Metro Police Department. In September, Officer Brett Hankinson was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment. The officer was charged of having a disregard of human life and putting others in danger by shooting the wall of Breonna's apartment. The drywall of the apartment is valued more than Breonna's life. Of course, tracking and frequent slaying of Black bodies is nothing new, for America was founded on such actions that have never been atoned for by those in power. And this is not even scratching the surface of the many forms of oppressive actions enforced on Blacks in America. While dealing with death and despair, Black folk have formulated a form of resistance against white hegemony and racism by uplifting, cultivating, and bringing to the fore positive actions better known as Black joy. This definition is based on my own reflection and understanding of the term. And though I am still unclear of the origins of Black joy as a concept, the term has been pervasive within digitally mediated spaces. Hashtag Black Joy has been quite prevalent in social media, showcasing African American slash Black folk displaying certain actions that are deemed entertaining, worthy of praise and adulation. In July of 2019, Haley Bailey was announced to play the role of Ariel in the live adaptation of The Little Mermaid, with many in support of her role, such as in this tweet. Under the Black Joy hashtag on various social media platforms, one can see several themes related to sexual freedom, pride in oneself, education, art, and so forth. In this Huffington Post article entitled Black Joy is Black Resistance, Reverend Broderick Greer states, Black joy dances in the face of armed officers, sings in the presence of death, and shouts down systems of terror. Black joy is the spirit of liberation that inhabits Black bodies in church services, defying order of rows of pews for spontaneous joy. Reverend Greer also states, we will not be crushed because we know that while the history of white supremacy is long and triumphant, white supremacy itself is not the last word. Joy is. Powerful sentiments referring to Black joy as a method in which to cope, deal, and thrive within an oppressive system via the church as a site to express such joy. In a Flare article by Hadia Rararike exclaims, simply put, Black joy is the unabashed enjoyment of Black culture without apology, hesitancy, or shame. Furthermore, Rodriguez states Black joy is also rare because the mainstream media would rather focus on Black pain. I agree wholeheartedly. In the age of near instant information, sharing Black pain is always within the news. However, I do disagree with Rodriguez that Black joy is rare. Black joy is not rare. Black joy is expressed through a myriad of spaces and places, which I will address shortly. I firmly agree that positive expressions of Blackness is not highlighted enough within mainstream culture to be the default outlook about Black identified people. Black joy is so much more than just the opposition to anti Blackness. Director of African American and African Diaspora Studies at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Dr. Javon Johnson, expounds upon this argument in his article, Black Joy in the Time of Ferguson, by discussing Black joy as an epistemology or theory/method that is not about enduring certain struggles. Johnson exclaims, Black joy allows us space to stretch our imaginations beyond what we previously thought possible, and allows us to theorize a world in which white supremacy does not dictate our everyday lives. He discusses venues in which Black folks commune to celebrate, such as house parties, backyard cookouts, and I would also add the church, the skating rink, and the burgeoning venues such as the annual BlerDCon held in Crystal City, Virginia, and shouts out to the Naptown Real Rollers in Indianapolis. Johnson believes that these spaces and actions performed by Black bodies provides the feeling of what a Black utopia might be like. Lastly, Johnson claims Black bodies harbor knowledge. And in these moments, every smile, head nod, hip shake, and high five is an exchange of embodied truths that Black joy is phenomenally transformational. Gaming culture is such a space for Blacks to express these moments. The games industry is an environment in which Blacks have been and continue to be integral in the shaping of gaming culture. Level 2, gaming history is Black history. Blacks within gaming history are sparse due to a lack of documentation and accreditation, either by the news publications and or by the companies themselves. However, several African American folk played significant roles in the early days of the modern gaming industry. Gerald A. Lawson, better known as Jerry, was born on December 1st, 1940 in Queens, New York. Lawson is noted having a strong interest in electronics, which led to him teaching himself about engineering. He attended Queens College and the City College of New York. Lawson went on to work for several tech companies before moving to Silicon Valley. Lawson is most noted for leading the design team behind the Fairchild Channel F system, which came out in 1976, the first home video game console with removable game cartridges. Lawson passed away on April 9th, 2011, but left a lasting legacy within gaming. Here's a screen grab of Karen Lawson, Lawson's daughter, talking about her father's legacy at the 2018 Game Developers Conference. Within that same year, Xbox created the Jerry Lawson Grant for Career Development, which aims to help people who identify as Black and or of African descent. According to Sierra McDonald, a principal program manager at Xbox, the grant provided 5 indie game developers who identify as Black and or of African descent with GDC conference and summit passes, and an opportunity to meet with Kareem Chowdhury, who's the corporate vice president of Microsoft Gaming Cloud. There are lesser known figures such as Dolores Williams and Dolores Bowers, 2 Black women who own their own respective arcades in DC in the 1980s. Jacqueline Bouchon, who worked for IBM as a staff technologist from 1986 to 1996 and as a general manager for Motorola from 1996 to 2004. Bouchon founded their own interactive digital media and animation company called Energize Entertainment in 2005. The company released a video game for the Xbox 360 called Black College Football: The Experience on September 29th, 2009. It's a college football game that incorporates the football teams of HBCUs. Players can also participate in a drum line by synchronizing button inputs with the corresponding colors on the controller. The International Game Developers Association 2019 conducted a survey in 2019 in which out of the 1,116 individual responses, a mere 2% identified as Black or African American. Though this abysmal statistic is not all encompassing of the total racial demographics of the games industry, this does suggest a huge lack of Blacks in game development, not just within the US, but globally. Here are a few folks that stand out with pride and joy within this 2%. Sarah Bond received her BA in economics from Yale University and MBA from Harvard Business School. Bond is currently the corporate vice president of gaming partnerships and business development at Microsoft. Dave Gossett is the director of advertising. He's the director of the Advertising Review Council, ARC, for the Entertainment Software Rating Board. The ESRB is responsible for giving a rating on video games released in America, and ARC is responsible for how those games are marketed on television, billboards, etc. According to a documentary about the ESRB, Dave states he has been a part of the ESRB for 20 years and focuses on content, and the content is usually in television spots, in trailers, in general audience video, paid advertised video for use online. Therefore, himself and his team are the final say on if a trailer is suitable or not before it is released. In reference to that, he states, "One of the things I pride myself in is that I deliver a lot of bad news on a daily basis. Like you have to take out this, and this from your ad, your video, your trailer." Beyond this role, he is also known for his voice that many gamers may recognize. Rated M for mature. Modern video game technologies enable users to communicate via voice chat, instant messaging, and live streaming. However, gamers of color experience hostility, racism, and sexism offline and online via these technologies. Although Black gamers in particular are met with an anti Blackness rhetoric from offline to online spaces, 2 things are clear. Black people will continue to game regardless of someone's ignorance and be phenomenal at it. This is evident in the myriad of ways Black gamers are reclaiming space and reclaiming their time, to paraphrase Congresswoman Maxine Waters. There's a space dedicated to people of color to thrive in the games industry called Game Devs of Color Expo. It started out as a one-day event in 2016, but now has become a two-day event. It is a venue for people of color to show off their games, network, and celebrate the myriad of shades and hues involved in the games industry. However, due to the ongoing pandemic, the expo went online, but still showed a bevy of indie games and had several guest speakers and more. I would like to introduce everyone to Brassline Entertainment that was founded in the fall of 2019. Brassline is ran by three games industry veterans. Bryna Dabby Smith, who is the chief executive officer and executive producer, Rashad Redick, who is the chief creative officer and the art director, and Manveer Air, who is the chief visionary officer and creative director. As mentioned on their site, Brassline is focused on creating original fictional universes that center on Black and Brown and other traditionally marginalized characters, cultures, and stories. Brassline is currently working on their first project entitled Corner Wolves. Corner Wolves is a fictional universe set in Harlem during the mid-90s, where Jacente, a young Afro-Latina, embarks on a mission to find her father's killer. Corner Wolves tells the stories of young people growing up in the hood and how their lives are shaped and defined by the war on drugs as they are caught between dope dealers, hustlers, and overzealous police. Corner Wolves is coming to multiple formats, including video game and podcasts. Black folks have been and continue to be integral within the production of video games, even though there is much room for improvement in terms of diversity and inclusion. Despite Blacks working in an industry that may not reflect their ideologies, backgrounds, or perspectives, Blacks still find a sense of fulfillment and joy in gaming. This is evident in the current player base. Founded in 2015 by J. Ann Lopez, Black Girl Gamers is a platform centering on cultivating a positive gaming experience for women of color. In a Glamour magazine interview, Lopez discusses how the BGG has been a resource for people coping with the ongoing pandemic. BGG hosted a wellness week via Twitch, where they stream relaxing and chilled games. BGG is an inclusive space. Simply respect the rules of the group and be aware Black women are not a monolith. I Need Diverse Games is a nonprofit organization founded by Tanya DePass, whose mission is to shine the spotlight on works and research by marginalized folks, as well as discuss through an intersectional lens video game culture. You can submit articles to be published on their website. They have a Game Developers Conference scholarship program to send people to the Game Developers Conference in California, and among other philanthropic initiatives. You can support I Need Diverse Games on Patreon. Black individuals also flourish in the competitive space of esports. These are just a few individuals out of the many who stand out to me. Infinity is a fighting game competitor who plays for Konochi CGL and a cosplayer. Her cosplays include Catwoman, Sonya Blade, and Gogo Yubari. Sonic Fox is part of the Evil Geniuses team and has won multiple tournaments and is a three-time Evo champion. Evo being the world's largest fighting game tournament. Professor Highkick is the founder and community manager of Ladies Night FC. According to the group's Twitter page, Ladies Night FC is a community for women to come together to learn, study, and grow in the FGC. Scar is a fighting game player sponsored by Endemic. Scar has placed top 8 in several tournaments and in 2019 won first place in Mortal Kombat 11 at Combo Breaker 2019. Current games research firmly supplants that people bring in sexist and racial ideologies into virtual spaces that further marginalize and subjugate those not within the dominant culture. Gaming enables marginalized folk to resist, at least temporarily, the structures that oppress them. Gaming is a form of expression that does not belong to just an individual, but to all, regardless of race, religion, or gender, etc. Black joy through gaming is more than just an act of resistance. Black joy should not have to be racialized within the context of gaming, since gaming and joy should be for all, in which Black joy is a specialized form, not solely in contention with an oppressive force. Folks of marginalized identities have always been and continue to be a part of the creation of games. Abysmally, there are still too little African Americans a part of the creation of games. In a world in which anti Black rhetoric and imagery appears across a vast media landscape, African Americans will continue to find their own sense of joy for the survival and preservation of Black culture, and most importantly, for their individuality. So, I would like to leave Black gamers and non gamers alike with a poem by Dr. Javon Johnson, which I believe encapsulates the essence of what it means to be Black and full of joy. Thick, black, and unapologetic, like Big Mama's chili just spilling over the top. Too much spice for most people to stomach, but we like it that way. Black like a fish fry, like a backyard cookout with some maize playing. We're all, but not really all, the Black folks know the dance, and before it was even created, and we look at each other with that white folks cook in their backyards too, but they don't know nothing about this look, that Black. And isn't that we are all fighting for? The right to be joyfully Black? The audacity of it all? That in spite of Ferguson or Staten Island or Ohio or Mississippi or Alabama or Louisiana or Texas or anywhere else that makes racism sound like it's over there, that in spite of it all, we still smile and laugh and dance. That Black. Not that we laugh to keep from crying Black, but sometimes we laugh because it's just funny. That Black. And ain't that why we think we magical in the first place? That despite every reason not to, we still have joy, Black joy. We smile and live and love. We love. We love. We Black. We love. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to BlerDCon. Thank you for Afropunk. Thank you for those who tuned in. I greatly appreciate it. By all means, the DMs are open. So you can follow me at my blog here, jstilling.wordpress.com. I also have poetry of my own, which you can follow here at medium.com/@Javon Goard. Hit me up on Twitter. I should be kind of live right now. So feel free to ask me any questions or any inquiries that you have. You can also follow me on Instagram as well. And you can also hit me up with some questions at my email here. Thank you all. Again, this is amazing, and have a joyous time at Afropunk.